So now we present to you which factor impact regenerations. And for the next couple of minutes, I will present you what the NHRI learned about the relation between a couple of those factors, not all of it, of course, and the regenerations. And I'm annoyed to talk alone, so I will ask you a couple of questions during all of the presentations. So first of all, I will talk about the seedling strata, which is the stem with a height between 0.3 and 1.3 meter. And at the NHRI, we tackle factors in the harvesting methods group. So we have done some research on trail network and treatment type. And here at the NHRI, we've created a classifications to really know what kind of treatment was done. So, for example, in partial cuts, you can cut 10 to 90% of the basal area. So there's a long gradient of post-treatment characteristics following those treatments. So we really want to know what was the exact treatment that was done. So our classification is based on 5 criteria. So residual basal area, percent basal area cut. Like some of you can ask, why is there those both criteria are there? Why basal area remaining and percent basal area? Can anyone answer these questions? Why is this important to have a classification based on both percent basal area cut and residual basal area? Because it's kind of the same, but it's the morning. Well, for example, if you cut a stand and you have both 8 square meter per hectare of basal area, but in one stand you've cut 50% of the basal area, and in the other stand you've cut 90%, it will not impact the regeneration the same way. So it's very important to have both criteria in the classifications. There's the harvest pattern. Do we create an even-age stand or an irregular stand? The diameter classes cut. Do we cut only the overstory or the lower strata? And of course, the residual stand type, so the residual composition of species. So the first factor that I will talk is trail network. So we found that we have more red maple and yellow birch seedling within the trail than without, which makes sense because we create more soil disturbance. Another question. So which trail distance you think is drawing a higher density of commercial species seedling? Is it narrower or is it a wider trail spacing?
Narrower.
Narrower. And why?
It's just kind of a wild guess, really.
Yeah, it's wider because you protect more of the seedlings. Treatment type now. So the effect of treatment type on seedlings. So seed tree cut. The objective of a seed tree cut is, of course, regenerate a new stand within 20 years via seed trees. So, for practitioners, how many seed tree per hectare do we need to have a good commercial density of seedlings? 25 per hectare? Okay. Someone else want to try? So, we found that the optimal distance between the seed tree and the yellow birch seedling proportions is 20 to 40 meters. So between 20 and 40 meters, you have an optimal proportion of seedlings of yellow birch, which means 10 to 20 seed trees per hectare. Again, here there's 4 different treatment time with different trail spacing. So beech was lower following 1 year following a continuous cover of 2 age with 60-meter trail spacing, and was higher following a group shelter wood with 60-meter trail spacing. Red maple overstory removal gives the highest density 1 year after treatment, and continuous cover the lowest. Sugar maple, the highest density of seedling, is following group shelter wood with 16-meter trail spacing, and the lowest in shelter wood 20-meter. Yellow birch, we have the highest seedling density following a group shelter wood with 16-meter trail spacing, and the lowest in continuous cover to age 16 with 16-meter trail spacing. Again, here it's only 1 year after the treatment, and the thing that I want you to remember is that it's just that treatment time can affect the regenerations, and it affects it differently according to different species. Now, factors impacting the sapling strata. So sapling, it stems with height higher than 1.3 meter and with a DBH lower than 10 centimeter. So again, we look at the treatment time. So commercial thinning. The objective of the commercial thinning is to thin a dense, young, or immature stand to regulate competitions by releasing crop tree. So how it affects sapling. So we found that the higher the thinning intensity is, the lowest the sapling density of beech is. Contrary, we found that the higher the thinning intensity is, the higher the sapling density of sugar maple, red maple, and yellow birch is. We've also looked at the factors of season of harvesting and harvesting systems. And we push it a little bit further here because we've looked at the interaction between season of harvesting and harvesting systems. So, season of harvesting, we found that the sapling proportion of commercial species is higher following a summer treatment than a winter treatment. For method of harvesting, we found that sapling density of commercial species was higher following a manual full tree harvesting method than the mechanical full tree. I know manual full tree, it's not. I don't think it's practiced again. So, a manual full tree here is chainsaw with cable skidder, and mechanical full tree is feather buncher, grapple skidder, and a delimber. So, for the interaction between season and method of harvest, is it changing? So, yes, here, if we do a mechanical full tree during summer, we will have lower sapling density of commercial species than if we do it in winter. So it's contrary to what I've seen, to what I presented you earlier. So if we look at all the method of harvesting together, summer is yielding a highest density of sapling. But if we look at the interaction, it's different. Some of those factors, of course, impact both strata, so seedling and sapling. We will look at the environment group of factors, and more specifically at light access and herbivory. So for light access, we found that the longer the germinalized suppression is during the seedling and the sapling strata, the less value the tree will have in the commercial sites. Can someone explain to me why? It's because when a tree is in juvenile suppression, the probability to be damaged is higher. So it will be a less value tree once in the commercial size tree. Herbivory. So we've looked at moose browsing in northwest New Brunswick. If you know, there's a lot of moose there. So we wanted to understand what was the impact of moose browsing on the regenerations, seedling and sapling strata. So we've looked at the proportion of harvest site that was stocked, so meaning that we have 60% of the plot that has at least one commercial species. So if we looked only at commercial species, yes or no, it's present. 8 sites out of 10 is fully stocked in the seedling strata. But if we look at those commercial stems, if there's moose browsing there, only 1 out of 10 sites is fully stocked. In the sapling strata, if we look only presence or absence of commercial species, 1 out of 2 is fully stocked. But if we look at moose browsing on those commercial stems, only 1 site out of 4 is fully stocked. So yes, moose browsing can affect regenerations. And moreover, what do you think, which species do you think is more affected by moose browsing? Birch. Sugar maple, yellow birch, and red maple are the species that was affected by moose browsing. So now, I will present you results from factors that impact recruitment of sapling into the commercial size species strata. Starting with vegetation, so vertical structure, advanced regenerations. Do you think advanced regenerations is important following a treatment? I'm hoping you're going to say yes. Thank you. And how long do you think it takes to an advanced sapling to be recruited into the commercial size strata?
Depends on site.
Eh?
Depends on site quality.
Yeah, of course.
25 years.
25 years? Okay. So we've looked at it, and we found that 9 years after a partial harvest, 50% of the small diameter tree was composed of advanced regenerations. After 18 years, 100% of those small trees is composed from advanced regeneration. Now we're going to look at the percent basal area cut affecting the recruitment of sapling into the commercial size tree. So, which species you think will dominate after a medium percent basal area remove and a high percent basal area remove? So, which one will be more recruited into the commercial size tree? Medium percent basal area remove, sugar maple will be more recruited into the commercial size tree, and really the optimal percent basal area cut to have a dominate sugar maple recruitment is between 50 and 60%. And with a high percent basal area remove, yellow birch will be the one that will be the more recruited into the commercial size. So higher, a percent basal area higher than 60% will increase the recruitment of yellow birch into the commercial size tree.
we have plenty of time for questions, so if you want to go back to specific information and dig further, we are welcome to do so. And I have questions already. So are there any questions for Stéphanie?
If you want to ask your question into French, it's okay too. So.
Okay, in your figures, you show that winter damage and regeneration was higher in the first case and lower with mechanized. You clearly show that with mechanized operations, the damage to softness was lower in winter. But the previous figure showed the contrary.
So, meaning that when we look with all method of harvesting, I have a highest sapling density following a summer treatment.
Right.
Yeah, and then with mechanical, it's probably soil disturbance. So, and Gita, you can. It's great to have animation, but not when you're. Yeah. What? So yes, so here I have a highest proportion of commercial species following the summer, and a highest following the natural poultry. And when I look at mechanical, it's contrary. So I have highest density of commercial species following a winter.
Can you go back to the first?
Oui.
I think that what we don't see there is the interaction with the trail pattern.
Mm.
So manual operation in cable skippers, we tend to have a wider trail pattern. So there's a disguised interaction there that we don't see. I'm guessing that's part of the answer.
Yeah, manual poultry, we kind of go everywhere in the thing with the cable spider.
So you only got manual poultry operations. What's the difference between the winter and summer?
No. But this study was on not a lot of plots and in a small area, so.
Typically, scarecrows go home at Christmas, so we cannot do a winter comparison. It's very uncommon for annual crews to operate.
The key message here is really that some factors can have interactions between them. So.
Yes.
En fait, le mois de l'étude en 2002, j'ai comparé le traitement multifonctionnel avec les deux accords et la différence, on avait vu de ce temps-là, c'était si la rémunération était préétablie, la multi allait leur produire plus, donc l'année d'ensuite, il y avait un meilleur mais si vous n'avez pas, tu venais d'établir de la nouvelle, le scaler, dans tu sors encore dans ton étude, quand tu compares la multi l'hiver, peut-être c'est ça.
Ouais.
Peut-être qu'il n'avait pas établi à la peut-être plus l'hiver.
I don't have any data before the treatment, so yeah, and I don't have data so if the plot was in the trail or not. So yeah.
Other questions?
Thanks, Stephanie. In the sweet spot for sugar maple that you showed at the end, 40 to 60% removal, do you think that that trail orientation is an important factor, and do we have any way of exploring that or looking at that in the kind of data that we have?
Well, I've read in the literature that trail exploration has an impact on region, but unfortunately we don't have any data to look at it right now.
Do you think it's possible to reconstruct what the trail orientation is just from our GIS data and our LiDAR data and things like that?
We've tried, but it's really hard. Okay. Those data are like 10 to 25 years, so yeah. But maybe other people have more data and we can look at it. So.
About the moose browsing. Moose seems like a popular topic today, so I will go towards that. Like you said that when was moose browsing considered, that it reduced the proportion of signs that were stuck. But like, I know that moose do affect, but when you still see a sapling or a seedling, is it because you know that the quality of this seedling or sapling will not be good enough further in time, that you consider that it's not stuck because you still see the sapling or seedling?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and a study in Maine was done, and they look at the longer term or longer impact of moose browsing on the stems, and it seems like the stem will recuperate or will not be a lower value when it will reach the commercial size strata. So, yeah.
Yeah. So this is, but when you assess, like you have the comparison between the percentage stuck with moose browsing considered and without.
Yeah.
So how do you say that there's a difference? Like because you've seen moose browsing and it's too damaged?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah. Yeah. I classify each stem with low, medium, and high browsing intensity.
Okay. And these stems are too damaged to be able to recover.
Yeah. We think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I guess that you would see a different picture, like in addition to what you were seeing, if you would like exclude browsing at the beginning, so you would see more seedling or sapling when you exclude browsing. Yeah. So in addition to the impact on the quality of the stem, it also reduces the density, but through the study, So any more questions? If not, we'll take 5 more minutes of break, so it's always good to network in these events, so I guess you will not blame me for that. Just want to share some details about the break. I'll bring up the slide here. Oh yeah, and before we go to the break, I will also add the speaker gifts to the different speakers. So far we have Stéphanie was presented. So I will invite Stéphanie, Gaëtan, and Chris to come here. We will give the gifts before some talks are done, but I think it's a good time to introduce them. So each speaker, you can come if you want to go, Chris. Each speaker is given $500. Is not given a $500, but is given a thank you card mentioning that the $500 donation has been made to the program Love Alone for Kids, and this program supports local children's hospital. So I will do that. The refreshment break. We will do that until 10:55. So you come back here at 10:55, and it's sponsored by the sponsor, which are there. And afterward, at 10:55, we will have Gaëtan's presentation. So thank you for your attention so far.